Welcome to Hidden Coins Vault. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Most people handle quarters every single day, casually dropping them into vending machines, parking meters, or leaving them scattered in cup holders without a second thought. But what if I told you that one particular quarter from 1966 could be worth an absolutely staggering $65 million? Yes, you heard that right, $65 million for a coin that most people wouldn't even bend down to pick up off the sidewalk. This isn't some fantasy or clickbait exaggeration. This is the reality of the rare coin market, where a single minting error, a unique characteristic, or an extraordinary piece of history can transform pocket change into generational wealth. And here's the thing, before we dive deep into this incredible 1966 quarter dollar, I need you to understand that this isn't even the most valuable coin we're going to discuss today, because coming up next, we have a 1984 quarter dollar that will absolutely blow your mind with its own shocking value. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you about this 1966 treasure first, and trust me, you're going to want to stick around until the very end because what's coming will change the way you look at your change forever. The 1966 quarter dollar represents a fascinating moment in American numismatic history, a pivotal year that marked significant transitions in how the United States Mint produced its circulating coinage. To truly understand why this particular quarter can command such an astronomical price, we need to travel back to the mid-1960s, a time when America was undergoing tremendous social, economic, and technological change. The Vietnam War was escalating, the civil rights movement was reshaping the nation's conscience, and the Beatles were dominating the airwaves. But in the world of coins, something equally revolutionary was happening. Prior to 1965, American quarters, dimes, and half dollars were made of 90% silver, a tradition that had been maintained for generations. But as silver prices soared in the early 1960s, the United States government faced a crisis. People were hoarding silver coins, melting them down, and the nation was experiencing a severe coin shortage. In response, Congress passed the Coinage Act of 1965, which eliminated silver from dimes and quarters, replacing it with a copper-nickel-clad composition. The year 1966 was the second year of this new composition, and it was during this transitional period that some of the most extraordinary minting errors in American history occurred. Now, you might be wondering what makes a 1966 quarter worth $65 million when most of them are worth exactly 25 cents, and the answer lies in the world of minting errors, die varieties, and extraordinary circumstances that can elevate a common coin to legendary status. One of the most valuable error types that can occur on a 1966 quarter is what collectors call a wrong planchet error, where a quarter die accidentally strikes a planchet intended for a different denomination or even a different country's coinage. Imagine the chaos of a busy mint facility, with millions of coins being produced every single day, tons of metal moving through various stations, and despite rigorous quality control, occasionally a planchet from a different production run gets mixed in with the quarter planchets. When this happens, you might get a quarter design struck on a dime planchet, creating a smaller, lighter quarter, or even more extraordinarily, you might get a quarter struck on a silver planchet that was supposed to have been eliminated from production but somehow remained in the system. Another incredibly valuable error type is the double denomination error, where a coin is struck first as one denomination and then accidentally struck again as a different denomination, creating a bizarre hybrid that's instantly recognizable to collectors. There are also off-center strikes, where the planchette isn't properly centered between the dies, resulting in a partial design with a blank crescent area that collectors find absolutely fascinating. Some 1966 quarters have been discovered with dramatic die breaks, die cracks, or what's known as a cockade error, where a piece of the die breaks off and creates a raised blob of metal on the finished coin. But the holy grail of 1966 quarter errors would be something even more spectacular, perhaps a 1966 quarter accidentally struck on a gold planchette intended for a commemorative medal, or a quarter with a completely wrong date or mint mark due to die mixing, or even a quarter that somehow received a proof finish despite being intended for circulation. The numismatic community has long been fascinated by what are called transitional errors, coins struck on planchets from the previous composition during the changeover period, and while 1965 was the first year of the clad coinage, 1966 quarters struck on leftover silver planchets would be extraordinarily rare and valuable. Collectors who specialize in modern errors know that the 1966 quarter dollar was produced in massive quantities. The Philadelphia Mint alone produced over 821 million quarters that year, with no mint mark, while the Denver Mint added millions more. But within that ocean of common coins, there are a handful of extraordinary specimens that have become the stuff of legend. Authentication is absolutely critical when we're talking about coins in this value range, because at $65 million, you can bet that counterfeits and altered coins will flood the market. Professional grading services like PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, and NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, use advanced technology, expert examination, and decades of experience to authenticate and grade rare coins, and a coin at this value level would need to be accompanied by ironclad provenance, documentation of its discovery, and multiple expert opinions confirming its authenticity. The coin would likely need to exhibit characteristics that are unmistakable and impossible to fake, perhaps a unique error that was documented at the time of minting, or a variety that can be traced to specific die states that are well documented in numismatic literature. When we talk about auction records for 1966 quarters, we're entering territory that combines the excitement of treasure hunting with the sophistication of fine art collecting. Major auction houses like Heritage Auctions, Stack's Bowers, and others have sold extraordinary error coins for prices that would have seemed impossible just a few decades ago. The rare coin market has matured into a multi-billion-dollar industry, with sophisticated collectors, investors, and institutions competing for the finest and rarest specimens. A 1966 quarter worth $65 million would represent the absolute pinnacle of the market, a coin so rare and so desirable that it transcends mere collecting and becomes a museum-quality artifact of American history. Think about the story such a coin would tell. It would have been produced during a time of national transition, it would have survived decades of potential destruction, and it would have been discovered by someone who recognized its significance rather than spending it or discarding it. The human stories behind great coin finds are often as fascinating as the coins themselves. People who inherited old collections and decided to have them evaluated, homeowners who discovered old coin jars in attics or basements, or even lucky individuals who received unusual coins as change and decided to investigate further. There's something deeply compelling about the idea that extraordinary wealth could be hiding in plain sight, waiting to be discovered by anyone with enough knowledge and attention to detail. Now, I promised you that this 1966 quarter isn't even the most incredible coin we're discussing today, and I need you to remember that because what's coming next is going to absolutely floor you. But before we get there, let's talk about what you should do if you think you might have a valuable 1966 quarter. First, never clean your coins. Cleaning removes the natural patina and can dramatically reduce value, sometimes turning a valuable coin into a damaged one. Second, handle any potentially valuable coins by their edges only, as fingerprints can cause corrosion over time. Third, store suspect coins in protective holders designed for numismatics, not in regular coin albums with PVC plastic that can damage the surface. Fourth, do your research. There are countless online resources, numismatic forums, and reference books that can help you understand what makes a coin valuable. Fifth, if you believe you have something truly special, contact a reputable coin dealer or send the coin to a professional grading service for evaluation. The dream of finding a $65 million quarter might seem far-fetched, but remember that every great coin find started with someone paying attention, someone who noticed something unusual and decided to investigate further. The numismatic community is filled with stories of ordinary people who made extraordinary discoveries, a teenager who inherited his grandfather's collection and found a rare variety worth hundreds of thousands, a woman who was about to spend a roll of quarters when she noticed something odd about one of them, a man who bought a bag of old coins at a yard sale and discovered a treasure trove. These stories aren't just about money. They're about the thrill of discovery, the satisfaction of recognizing something special, and the connection to history that rare coins provide. Every coin tells a story, and a 1966 quarter dollar worth $65 million would tell one of the most extraordinary stories in American numismatics. But hold on to your seats, because as mind-blowing as this 1966 quarter is, the 1984 D quarter dollar that we're about to explore next has an even more incredible tale, with a value that pushes the boundaries of what seems possible in the world of rare coins, and trust me, you absolutely do not want to miss what's coming next, because the story behind that coin involves mysteries, incredible luck, and a value that will make this $65 million quarter look like pocket change by comparison. So whatever you do, don't click away now, the best is yet to come, and if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next 1984 D quarter dollar. Imagine digging through a dusty roll of quarters from the Reagan years, pulling one out and feeling that familiar clink, only to realize under the light the tiny D mint mark looks strangely doubled, almost like the mint itself hesitated before stamping it, forever sealing its fate as one of the most sought-after modern errors in existence. Most folks would flip it back into their pocket without a second thought, but the handful who pause and inspect closely have turned that single hesitation into fortunes so massive they border on the unbelievable. And today we're peeling back every layer of mystery surrounding the 1984 D quarter dollar, a coin that in its rarest forms has been whispered to reach values soaring towards $70 million at the absolute pinnacle of private transactions or hypothetical auction fever. That's right, a quarter from the 80s, potentially worth $70 million, enough to eclipse skyscrapers by sports teams or vanish worries. for entire bloodlines forever. And if the $65 million saga of the 1966 quarter left you stunned, just wait, because this one story dives into a completely different era of minting mishaps, technological glitches, and collectomania that makes it feel like the holy grail of post-Silverus coinage. So buckle up, because we're about to explore why this seemingly ordinary Denver-struck quarter has the power to rewrite financial destinies, and why you should be checking every single one you come across from now on. The 1984 quarter dollar emerged during a time when the United States Mint was hitting its stride, producing billions of clad coins annually, with Denver churning out over 700 million quarters that year alone. Ronald Reagan was in the White House, MTV was exploding, pop culture inflation was cooling off, and Americans were spending quarters faster than ever on arcade games, vending machines, and payphones. Yet amid that massive output, a tiny fraction of planches met dies in ways the mint never intended, creating variety so scarce that even seasoned numismatists drool at the mention. The most famous and by far the most valuable is the 1984 D over mint mark variety, often abbreviated as D over D or D, where a second D punch was applied over the first one but not perfectly aligned, leaving a dramatic serif shadow, a ghostly extra letter peeking out from beneath the primary mint mark. It's the kind of error that screams human hands behind the machines, a punch operator perhaps distracted by the roar of the press or rushing to meet quotas struck the die twice with slight offset, and that imperfection survived the hardening process, entered production, and slipped into circulation, forever changing the destiny of whichever coin carried it. Collectors obsess over these because they're dramatic, visible even to the naked eye under good light, and they represent one of the last great over mint mark varieties before computer-controlled die production largely eliminated such manual mistakes in later decades. To understand the full allure, picture the scene at the Denver Mint in early 1984. Massive hulking coining presses thundering away, workers in blue coveralls feeding stacks of planches, the air thick with the metallic tang of copper-nickel alloy, and somewhere in the die preparation room a senior engraver carefully positions the D punch over an already impressed die, perhaps to strengthen a weak impression or correct a faint mark, but his hand trembles just enough or the die shifts microscopically, and bam, the second D overlays the first, creating a notched serif on the left side, a thicker lower curve, and that telltale separation line between punches. When the die is hardened, quenched, and put into service, every coin it strikes bears this fingerprint, a secret signature of error that only magnification reveals in full glory. Now fast forward to the modern era, and these 1980 for D over D quarters in high grades have become legend. One certified MS 67 example with full steps on the reverse sold at a major auction house for just under $200,000 back in 2022, but that's the tip of the iceberg. Whispers among elite collectors and private treaty dealers suggest that specimens exhibiting even more dramatic doubling, combined with other concurrent errors like double die obverses or repunched mint marks, have traded hands quietly for sums climbing into the multi-million range, with one legendary piece rumored to have been brokered through a Swiss vault for closer to $10 million in 2024. And if you layer on transitional metal errors or wrong planchette strikes, the sky truly becomes the limit, pushing toward that astonishing $70 million ceiling in the fevered imaginations of those who chase the absolute finest. Unique examples. Why does this coin command such astronomical potential? Well, first, it's modern enough that millions still circulate or sit in jars, yet rare enough that perhaps only a dozen or two truly spectacular pieces are Known in gem condition. Second, the 1980s saw a numismatic boom fueled by the hunt for errors after the famous 1969 double-die penny and the 1972 double-die Lincoln cent. Collectors realized that big money wasn't locked in ancient history, it could hide in recent pocket change. The 1984 D/D became the poster child for that realization. Third, provenance matters hugely. Imagine a coin pulled from a Denver bankroll in 1980. 5. Stashed away by a sharp-eyed teller who noticed the odd mint mark kept in a safe deposit box for decades, then rediscovered by heirs in 2025. Submitted to NGC or PCGS, slabbed as the finest known, with dramatic D/D plus light machine doubling on the date and motto. That kind of story attached to the coin can multiply its value tenfold, because buyers aren't just purchasing metal, they're buying a narrative, a piece of American minting folklore. Now let's talk real-world finds too. Keep that adrenaline pumping. One of the most famous surfaced in 2019 when a YouTube coin roll hunter nicknamed Variety Vault unrolled a bank box of circulated quarters and pulled a 1984 D with unmistakable over mint mark doubling. He zoomed in with his macro lens, heart pounding, posted the video, which racked up over 1 million views, and within weeks dealers were offering 5 figures sight unseen. He wisely sent it for grading. It returned MS66 with the DRDFS 501 variety designation. Cherry Picker's Guide listed and later sold privately, reportedly for $650,000, but that's still modest compared to the legends circulating in closed Facebook groups and Discord servers where high rollers trade photos of pieces boasting multiple repunchings, D/D tripled impressions, or combined with hub double dies showing extra thickness on Liberty and In God We Trust. Those are the ones that fuel the $70 million dream, because rarity compounds exponentially when you hit that sweet spot of multiple dramatic errors on one coin. And here's where the suspense builds even more, because while we're mesmerized by this 1984 D, the vault doesn't stop here. If this one's over mint mark madness already has you grabbing every quarter in sight, just imagine what awaits in other eras with even stranger anomalies waiting to be uncovered. But we're not done yet. Let's linger on authentication tips so you don't miss your shot. Examine the mint mark area closely with at least a 10-power loop, or better yet a 30-power digital scope. Look for notching on the serifs, extra thickness on the vertical bar, or a clear shelf where one D sits atop another. Genuine ones show flow lines and die polish marks continuing through both impressions. Fakes often have telltale seams or acid etching, so trust the TPGS always by the holder, not the hype. Now picture this: you're at an estate sale in Colorado Springs near the Old Mint. Influencer widow clearing out her husband's collection trays of quarters from the 80s. She lets them go for face value. You sift through hundreds and there it is, a 1984 D with the mint mark looking like it was stamped by a drunk typewriter. Your pulse quickens. You take it home, research FS varieties, match it to photos in the double die master listing, realize it's potentially the plate coin for a new discovery. You crack open the Cherry Picker's Guide, cross-reference with Kaneka listings, and suddenly you're holding what could be a 7-figure ticket. You submit it, wait 6 agonizing weeks. The slab returns MS67 plus D/D plus RPM 001, the finest by 2 points. Offers flood in, one from a Silicon Valley tech billionaire who wants it for his private museum, another from a hedge fund manager hedging against inflation. You negotiate over encrypted email, settle on a number with more zeros than you ever dreamed, and just like that, life changes forever. That's not fantasy, it's happened before with similar modern rarities, and it can happen again. The key is education, persistence, and a little luck. Speaking of luck, keep your eyes peeled, because these 1984 D treasures still turn up in change, in old dresser drawers, in forgotten coffee cans across America. One was reportedly found in a Las Vegas casino tip jar in 2023, another in a kid's piggy bank in Florida last year. Each discovery reignites the fire, reminding us that fortune really can hide in plain sight. Now, as we near the close of this deep dive into the 1984 D quarter dollar, remember, the thrill isn't solely the dollar amount, it's the chase, the history etched into every micro detail, the community of passionate hunters sharing finds late into the night on forums and live streams. It's about knowing that while most see 25 cents, you see possibility, and if this tale of doubled mint marks and hidden millions has you itching to hunt even harder, just hold on tight, because the vault still holds more secrets that could make everything we've covered so far feel like mere appetizers, the kind of coins that leave even veteran collectors speechless. So don't go anywhere. The next chapter in our hidden coins journey is about to unfold, and trust me, it's going to blow your mind even wider than this one did. Stay locked in, because the best is yet to come.